Welcome to the Hidden Bookcase. Come through and get cozy. Pick a book, your favourite book, that's the one that opens this room. Inside you'll find a warm fire, a loving cat, and a wide skylight to the stars.
And a dangerously high to be red pile.
I'm Morgan, I use they them pronouns, and I am a touch-starved art thief.
I'm Soren, I use he him pronouns, and I am experiencing gender envy for a shape-shifting dragon.
I'm Danny, I use they them pronouns, and I'm hiding from overstimulation in the morgue.
Soren and I have been friends for over a decade, and the two of us are always swapping books.
Each fortnight, the two of us, sometimes with help from a friend, take it in turns to recommend one another a favourite read. This month is Disability Pride Month.
So today let's get to talking about
disability and romance.
So today, we are here for the third year in a row to be disabled.
just keeps coming.
You
know, we do it all for you, listeners. That's the...
Yeah. We are here today with Danny. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, about your work, etc.?
Yeah, so I write under the pen name Bryn. I have two main series. One of them's a fantasy romance combo called These Treacherous Tides, with a bunch of standalone books in the same world that feature different kind of like monster human romances. There's sirens, selkies, naga, fun things like that. And then the other series is the Guides for Dating Vampire series, which is a bunch of different human vampire romances. Because I'm very predictable. We got to get the monsters in there. But all of my books feature disabled characters, neurodiverse characters, and particularly the vampire romance series kind of portrays vampires as though they are disabled, part of the disabled community. There we go. English is, in fact, my only language.
Before we get into the meat of things, I have to ask, who was the character you were introducing yourself as in the intro?
Yes, I'm so intrigued.
Oh, okay. So I have just started the second book in the Reanimator's Mysteries by Kara Jorgensen. So this was called The Reanimator's Soul. And Oliver, the main character, one of the main characters, has autism, and he is a necromancer who does like the person who looks at the dead bodies.
Mortician?
Yeah. Yeah. Like a mortician, but also
medical examiner?
There's a word. Whatever. The listeners are shouting
it right now. There's a special word when it's a crime, right?
Yeah. He does that. He's in the morgue looking at dead bodies and making them come back to life to solve mysteries.
That sounds so good.
Incredible.
Yeah, they're very fun.
This does. I think I vaguely heard of this, but I didn't know it had any neurodivergent reps. So that's very intriguing.
So the Oliver is autistic, and then the love interest Felipe goes from he has like a kind of a superpowery gift to like heal himself, but in the first book, very early on, he loses that and has some like kind of dramatic. He's no longer able to heal for reasons. I can't remember at what point is it, so I don't want to spoil anything. But it's very fun. It has some good representation, but also just like if you like quirky paranormal investigator kind of they solve crimes and there's magic.
Always a good book.
Yeah,
definitely. Good recommendation right off the bat.
Yeah.
Get in with it.
I mean, I suppose we could jump off of that and say we're here today to talk about disability representation in romance novels.
Woo!
Or I suppose in romances, it doesn't have to be, I suppose, romance, but in the context of fictional romance, I suppose.
Yes.
And do we have any that we love to talk about? Starts off on a positive note.
I have suddenly never read a book in my entire life.
Morgan, I don't think that's true somehow.
Really? Okay, maybe I've read at least one book, maybe two.
At least
push.
One. Sure.
No, I was looking back through my list of like books from the last maybe 5 years and being like, I literally cannot remember what happens in most of these. Where did this information go?
That's so real.
Well, that's the problem when you read a lot, like only the standouts stand out,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, well, okay, one of the books that I read a while ago but still sticks in my head is actually a middle grade romance called The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James, which has a main character whose her heart is failing, so she's about to get a heart transplant, and she is just kind of dealing with life and falling in love, and just a cute little romance lesbian. They're figuring things out, and it's very soft and sweet. And I still like when I see it on my list of books that I have read. It makes me happy just seeing it.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
I think weirdly middle grade is quite good at disability, even in a romantic context. I've just seen a lot of it. I've been curating this display at work for Disability Pride Month because it is happening as we record this. So I've been putting them up, and I was surprised by how much I found there. And then even I was just browsing the other day, and I found a little sapphic middle grade romance that I immediately sent to Morgan, being like, one of the characters has EDS. Read this.
Yes. I think and that's very important for kids to have representation like that. I'm so proud of the extent that we've been able to fill middle grade shelves with books like that over the last most recently. I think it's just been the last maybe 4 or 5 years that these kinds of books are coming out too.
Because I think there's an assumption that romance is a bit of a more an adult topic, but then kids have crushes, kids go on dates, and I think if you never see that kind of innocent, fun romantic experience, I guess you can there's an obvious parallel with queer romances here as well. But if it's disabled romances are an adult thing, then if you're that kid who is disabled, that feels pretty terrible. Yeah,
you don't want to feel like you're not allowed to have that just because you're I can imagine being a kid looking at all of the romances that are for you, being between able-bodied neurotypical people, and then you see that the adults have some of that representation, so maybe you just have to wait for a while and become an adult before you can fall in love, and that's very sad.
And even those contemporary romances are also fairly new, so you might not have seen those or be aware of them, and then it might just feel oh, am I actually lovable? I'm not seeing any examples of this, which sucks. That's really sad. I got a little bit of, not pushback, but when I was putting things up, because basically my plan was originally to do my little display in one library, and then I got moved around a bunch, which happens to me fairly often. Because I was being moved around, I was I'm going to spread this agenda everywhere. So 4 libraries now have Disability Pride Month displays. Because I've made all the resources, I've got all the list of books, I can just assemble these super quickly.
Nice.
And then I was obviously talking to different people at each library, and some of them were oh, in the kids section, parents might want to have those conversations or expose them, but I was
oh no.
Well, here's my little sunflower factoids, and one of them, it says here that 1 in 10 children in the UK are disabled. So and that usually shut people down. It was interesting, and some of these comments I was getting from disabled colleagues. So I was guys, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean they live in this world too. What do you think? They exist in some tiny bubble where they don't meet anyone? Come on.
Yeah, it was really strange, especially from disabled colleagues, and there's some colleagues of mine who have disabled kids and stuff. So I was a bit why are we not what? Kind of thought you would all be going to bat for this, but okay.
Yeah, disability is safe for work. Actually, it's fine. It exists.
And the sooner that able-bodied kids learn to not just about, but how to have compassion and reading books where they have empathy for other people that aren't exactly living the same life as them. That is very important.
Literally, can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
I was baffled. But I was really interested to see like how much stuff there was. And also stuff seems to be going out. People seem to be taking them. So that's fun.
That's good to hear.
I'm excited.
Good sign.
Yeah.
Soren, do you have a favorite book to pitch?
Ooh. I've definitely mentioned this on a previous Disability Pride Month episode, but The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. So much fun. I love how that's handled. It's also that the character has been recently disabled and is very much sort of still adjusting to that and you know, his new life circumstances. And I think that's done very empathetically. And that narrative is as important as the romance narrative, I suppose. And I enjoyed that a lot. And then the sequel to that, The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes, I would argue also features disability representation in that the protagonist has something going on due to the time period. It's not like specified like what it specifically is, but she basically cannot have children. And that means that there's accommodations needed when it comes to like having sex with her partner because they really, really can't risk it because it would be very bad for her.
I appreciated that. I haven't read the first one yet. I started with the second because I was just happened to be the one that my library had at the time. But I love that we can also get disability representation in things that aren't classically like a lot of people think about disability and they think someone who uses a wheelchair or someone who's blind or like even maybe autistic. But if you can't have kids and getting pregnant would cause you like life-threatening harm, that is also something that is disabling in a part of your life.
Yeah, I feel like it's always kind of tricky to have these conversations, even just like doing the displays and stuff. I was a bit like, there's things here that like, you know, I would define as a disability, but then obviously like self-determination is important in that respect. So it's interesting when you're like talking about representation because it's like, well, if I say this, is there someone else who's going to be like, well, I wouldn't consider this disabling or I wouldn't like identify as disabled.
Yeah. Like stuff like depression, anxiety, ADHD, or having glasses even. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like you need an aid to see.
You do.
You can't.
And actually,
you can't do it without an aid.
Like glasses representation is actually very far between unless it's the nerd rags to riches storyline that we see in coming of age movies. So
or nerd ex jock.
Was it about 60% or something of people in the United States wear glasses, and yet how many characters in books do you see with glasses that aren't the nerdy stereotype?
Crazy stuff.
Honestly, so much rarer than that.
Rage. Rage. Just once I want somebody to like in the middle of a battle scene be, wait, stop my glasses.
Yeah. Or even like contacts are an interesting, like if you don't necessarily want them to deal with having the glasses. A lot of people also who have glasses wear contacts. That's a really easy 3 lines to throw in.
Exactly. You know, magical contacts even. We can be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm imagining being like, oh, I'm going off for my Portal Fantasy adventure, so I'm going to bring like stacks and stacks of daily disposables.
Yeah. Oh, imagine though, like all of the shenanigans that like you can get into with your love interest, whether at the beginning of a story when their contact gets stuck in like part of their eye and they have to be there like faces really close and they're trying to get it out and one of them's in pain and like,
oh my god,
why has nobody done that before? Come on.
My god,
missing out.
There you go. That's so cute.
It's like the meme of the girl doing the other girl's makeup and like sitting on top of her, but with a contact lens instead.
It's like messier and more awkward, but great.
Yeah.
That is something that I do feel like is missing, is that like bits of care, which I'm sure we'll get onto this later in terms of like, obviously there's room in these dynamics for things that aren't like an able-bodied character caring for a disabled character, but whether this was 2 disabled characters or not, like some of it can be very intimate, you know, if you're like, I don't know, sorting someone's eyes out, like if you've lost an eye, that can actually require a lot of care, like in between like putting in a prosthetic eye and things like that. I feel like there's a lot of like potential, not just for like physical intimacy, because sometimes you just need to be like close to each other and touching each other to like be helping with this kind of thing, but also that like emotional like vulnerability and like I'm letting you do this for me.
Yeah,
it's definitely a trope that I've seen more recently of like characters who are especially physically disabled, and an act of love being somebody like making him a new prosthetic or something like that, like in God Killer.
Yes.
Yatho? It's Yatho. When Yatho makes like a new prosthetic for Kizan, like multiple times, I'm pretty sure, throughout the series. And it's such like a big moment, and it's such a like, it's so good. I'm sure there's other examples, but I can't currently come to mind.
Winry from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
In one of my books, Our Bloody Pearl, the first one I published, there's a main, basically for most of the plot, the like found family is working on an aid to help the main character, who's a siren with a paralyzed tail, be able to swim again. It's very fun and sweet to like, and I think it's so important to have in books these relationships where people will go that extra mile to help someone that they love. And I feel like I don't know how to put this into words properly. Thinking a lot about community and the way that people show up for each other. And we have so many books about that one hero who goes and saves the world, and we have a lot less books about just the little impacts of the people around you stepping in to take care of you and to help you out when you need it, and then you being able to return the favor in other ways when they need it.
Yeah, I feel like you do that so well in the vampire series that you write.
Oh, thank you.
Because you go in and you're like, oh yeah, it's romances, and then there's such a focus on community that really stretches like across all 3 books of so far, and like that building up, and it's so good.
I try. Yeah, it's so important, I think, especially with the way that our current, like, honestly, like a global political climate, there's a lot of rises in anti-community bigotry and people trying to pull back into their own little like safe spheres where they don't reach like people who are different than them. And it's I don't know, it's so sad. So got to put it in my books.
I think grounding the romance in that community does just make it like a more convincing romance, though.
Yes.
Like, you obviously like you exist in your context, and then so does your relationship. So if you write to your characters and it feels like they're in a bubble, it's not going to be compelling in that way. Like we interviewed Leon Egan recently about his new young adult novel, Listen Closely. And I was just working on the episode, so I've got it fresh in my mind. And one of the things we were saying we really liked was like, the friendships that like the main characters have are like really important to the romance and to like the main plot.
Yeah.
And like how is balancing that and including that. And they said like I can't write a romance and not also write about like the friends and like the other people, because like how would it work basically?
Yeah. Speaking of romances, as we are, how do we feel about interabled romances versus romances between disabled characters? Because I feel like a lot of the time, especially when it's a abled writer writing, it will quite often be a like completely abled person ex a disabled person, and often ends up with the carer role. As in like the able person ends up with a carer role for the disabled person, which can be done well, but also I feel like I haven't seen many like differently disabled romances out there, like either 2 people with the same condition but different presentations, or 2 people with different disabilities but still being romantic.
I can't think of very many romances where they are both disabled, except perhaps like if they both have like mental illness. I think we see a fair number of those, but like physical disabilities, I like literally can't think of one, which is not great.
We've got some more. I'm not going to say unfortunate because I've not read either of them, but you've got stuff like Fault in Our Stars and 5 Feet Apart, where they meet at support groups for having the same condition.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they're both written by abled writers. So
John Green has OCD.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not the same. I think I actually know way too much about John Green. He worked with children who had like those types of illnesses for a little while, and I believe that's what inspired him to write it. But I don't know if the romance itself is actually good representation.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my like very vague memories, I don't feel like it was necessarily like terrible on that front, because it was like very much like, oh, this is something that they're both going through in different ways, and sometimes they mess up with each other, and sometimes they're able to support each other, but they're also both going through their own stresses. I feel like a lot of the complaints about Fault in Our Stars are unrelated.
I think
or maybe just that it's a bit like inspiration-y, but that's,
and
I feel like your mileage may vary there.
My issue with those kinds of romances, it almost feels like, I don't want to say that the illness is romanticized, but it's definitely like, but it feels like, because the point of the book is the illness rather than the romance, almost like it's like it becomes this doomed tragic thing because of the illness. I don't know, just feels a bit like
I read this long enough ago that I can't remember everything exactly, but I believe, so if I'm lying to you, it's not a lie, I just have bad memory. There's a book called I Fell in Love with Hope by
I've heard of that.
Kali, who I believe, and it's about terminally ill patients, but I believe the author is disabled or had one of the illnesses that was featured. I could be lying about that, but I did not add it to my long list of recommended reads, but I don't think it was because it was bad. It just got kind of boring at the end. There's sometimes books with good representation just don't happen to have good plots.
I did a quick Google, and it seems like she has a chronic autoimmune disease that means she's frequently hospitalized.
Okay, yeah.
So I suppose that's where the field of reference came from. But yeah, I would definitely love to see more romances with two disabled characters, particularly from disabled authors. But I think abled authors can do a good job. Look at Hannah Kaner. That's not, I guess that is, I would argue it's two disabled characters, because I think Elo's post-traumatic stress disorder is pretty disabling. But I think well-researched and well thought out, and also with the addition of sensitivity readers, you can do anything. Magical disabilities I would definitely include in this.
Yeah.
And that also would be a fun thing to see, actually, would be maybe some mundanely disabled characters with some characters with magical situations, which kind of mean that they function as disabled in one way or another.
I feel like you can also get a lot of interesting conversations out of that, as two people are exploring what it means to be one of them disabled in a way that is seen more as a disability by society, and the other one as I'm just disabled by something magical and weird.
My recommendation is one I read a couple of years ago, and it's called The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Ifweko.
Oh, I didn't know that had any disability rap.
Oh my god, yes, it does. The main character is a cane user, and she also has vitiligo. And it's really good. And she's so funny. She's not funny on purpose. but she just doesn't give a
Oh, I love that.
And she's like a maid in like a hotel. And she's just, and the audiobook is so good because she sings songs a lot and the narrator actually like sings. So good. And then there's a crocodile god who's falling in love with her. And it's really cute because they're both like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I guess we're in love.
Oblivious to lovers, the best kind.
Whoopsie. Yeah, it's so good. So good. Highly recommend. That is my current romantasy recommendation. Because I feel like it's also a big one that a lot of people haven't heard of. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I know about Jordan of Waco's geology, but this is set in the same universe, but like 10, 15 years later. And it's about a character who appears very briefly in one of the books. Highly recommend the audiobook.
Oh, look, my library has the audiobook, so.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes. That's so good.
We love that.
And I feel like that's fun as well because I believe the crocodile god has a magical disability, which is something to do with like how far he can go from his domain or something like that. It's been a while. And so it's interesting to have like that, like physical disability versus a magical disability.
Yeah.
And the way they sort of interact with each other.
Ooh, I've never really thought about that, but I guess that's like quite a common fantasy trope is someone's like confined to a domain. And I guess you could probably find a lot of commonality in like being housebound with that. Like...
Yeah. Yeah. My brain, unfortunately, my brain immediately goes to fan fiction. But I read a really good fanfic recently where it's a 911 fanfic, and I was about to finish this segue. Yeah, it was a 911 fanfic. Yeah, and it's basically like one of the characters is a ghost, and the other one moves into this house and is like, "Oh, wow, I'm having really vivid dreams about this hot guy," and then he's like, "Oh no, actually, it's a real guy. Whoops. Okay." But the interesting thing about that is that he is confined to a very specific amount of space, and he also, like, he has less spoons than most people, so he can't touch objects unless he's got enough spoons, and then he like phases through things. But what was even more interesting there is that when the non-ghost character is trying to talk to his therapist, he frames it by saying that he has a terminally ill housebound boyfriend, so that he has a way of being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good way of putting it, because they're like, okay, eventually he's going to like cross over to the other side, yada, yada, yada. This won't be forever. And he is housebound.
Yeah.
And so that he's able to talk to his therapist about him like that, which I think is really cool. Really cool way of incorporating that.
I love that.
That's an interesting way of bringing the parallel out as well, because you would like need to, you know, if you're in like an urban fantasy setting or whatever, and you're interacting and you're like, oh, I want to like talk about like this with a friend who doesn't know, or a therapist. You gotta come up with some metaphors.
Exactly. I feel like I should actually say what the title of that fic is, because I described it so specifically.
Do you know it?
It's called Your Love is an Oil Slick, It Glows Like Rainbows, It Stains My Soul, by Let Me Tell You About My Feels, which is one word. Yeah. It's one chapter, 67,000 words.
It's always those ones that are pretty iconic, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Crazy. But it's so good. But yeah, that's my contribution, is 911 fanfiction.
Good representation is good representation.
Exactly. Wait until I start going off about Omegaverse in about 20 minutes. I have many thoughts about that as a disability thing. So.
Well, I suppose on the subject of like fantasy versions of disability, how do we feel about monstrousness as a metaphor for disability, and like how that's handled, how that can be handled? Are there any ways that we would like to see it incorporated in like future stories?
So a while ago, I read Amanda Leduc's Disfigured on Fairy Tales Disability and Making Space, and that talks a lot about like the history of like monstrousness as a representation for disability, that I found very fascinating. But I think in general, in order to be done well, like it has to be done well. It has to be done with sensitivity and actually like putting care into it versus just like the monsters can be the disability allegory. Boom, we're done.
Yeah.
I suppose it's inherently dangerous territory because it's like, if it's monstrousness, are you then equating monstrousness itself with disability, or are you equating like the expulsion from society and the judgment from society that monstrous, quote unquote, monstrous characters would suffer with disability, which makes more sense.
Cough, cough, Remus Lupin, cough, cough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel remiss to dig into it too much, but I do feel like there is something kind of potentially problematic about maybe making that monstrousness dangerous. I suppose we have to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it. The fact that Rowling has explicitly said that was a like AIDS metaphor, but then Remus is like putting children in danger because of his disability feels very uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. And the way it's like this sort of mystery that people are trying to figure out and like basically out him throughout the whole book is very
uncomfortable. And I suppose it's like maybe you want to portray the monstrousness as dangerous in some way, but I feel like it's maybe it comes around to, at the end of the day, like, you know, it's true of many mental illnesses, like you're probably more of a danger to yourself or more of a or in danger because of the way that people would treat you. And I feel like maybe that's where the metaphor ends up being strongest.
Yes.
That's definitely the like what I tried to thread with the vampires in my Guides for Dating Vampire series, that like throughout the series, despite the fact that vampires do have some like extra strength and agility, and obviously fangs go bitey, the humans are always the ones that end up killing people. That like the vampires in general are more harmed by society than they ever harm anybody in the books.
Yeah.
You know what I want to see? I want to see werewolves that are allergic to chocolate.
Honestly,
I mean, you know, I just want more like food intolerance rep in general, because I feel like that is, you know, such a thing. But also like more like when you have like shifter things, more like things that carry over from one to the other, like the heightened senses and stuff like that. I feel like it's a very big trope for like an alarm to go off and a character to be like, my ears. But then they don't follow that through with like crowds would also be quite difficult and things like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I'm missing.
Oh my God, I was at a neighbour's event today and the fox alarm kept going off. And I don't know how, there were children there who didn't seem to be reacting to it, but it was driving me crazy. And I was like, please.
They have all of the strengths and none of the disadvantages. And the disadvantages are what makes, like, it rounds out the species or the character just in general, like makes them, even if we're not talking about disability, it just makes them more relatable to be like, yeah, everything that can be a positive can also be a negative for you. Like, it's all about the situation.
Exactly.
The chocolate allergies as well, I feel like has some rom-com potential. Like, obviously chocolates are a big gift that people tend to give to their paramours, or you can have an issue where you've just kissed and one of you's just been eaten. That's an awkward conversation that I've had to have as a celiac person, being like, can you just be careful? You know, and I feel like there's some levity that could be had there, some like, silly shenanigans.
Exactly, it's funny. It's like, I want to kiss. Oh wait, let me just go brush my teeth real quick.
Yeah, sorry. Can you leave and come back?
It's cute. Or the other character like cooking completely like gluten-free rather than doing like 2 separate meals and then being like, yeah, of course I made myself gluten-free so that I could kiss you. Like a little cute thing.
Yeah.
Cute. There's this girl on TikTok who can only eat oats and hypoallergenic formula, and like obviously there's not much variety there, but her boyfriend, whenever they're like hanging together, will always eat that instead of like normal food.
Oh.
Which is just like, I'm just like, that's so cute. That's so good. Yeah. Romance. Yeah. It's possible. I have an aunt who's allergic to chocolate, cheese, and wine. So like, what do they do for date night? I don't know. But there we go.
What a combination.
Like, those are my three, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the wine not so much for me, but for the rest of it, I'd be like, I'm keeping the celiac. I'm not. Chocolate and cheese are high up on the priorities list for me. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Literally before this recording, I got home and I was like, oh, I want to eat. And my family was like, what are you going to have? And I was like, well, I can't have chocolate or cheese before recording.
Yeah.
So that rules out basically everything.
It's a sad life.
It's a truly sad life.
You can indulge afterwards, though. At least it's not an allergy.
Yeah. Instead, I drank some tomato sauce, which is slightly horrifying. But, you know, tasty. Yeah. What were we talking about?
Food intolerances and romance.
Yes.
Well, monsters, kind of. But I feel like that's something that could also go nicely together. That like cooking as a romantic gesture could also kind of be fun with monsters. You know, like are you making a little steak for your werewolf boyfriend? What's going on?
Yes. Cute.
You probably need lots of iron.
So true. You know, and then obviously vampires with they're snacking on you.
Yes, so, you get to be dessert.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of cute. I've just finished a rewatch of Interview with a Vampire, so I'm very much like, yes.
I'm now imagining like, oh, I've taken loads of vitamin D so that my vampire partner can get some.
Honestly, I am so distressed by every vampire romance that doesn't let their vampires snack on like the human. All of the ones where they're like, oh, it'll kill the human. I'm like, no, that's not sexy. Stop. You've destroyed
just like a little
it.
drink, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
it's
maybe
so
a risk if it's like, you know, they're starving or something, you know, just fight the drama. But not every time. Surely they should just be able to have a sip occasionally.
This is such a, I'm going to say microtrope, even though I know everybody hates that word, but the microtrope of when a vampire and a human are like having sex and then they like bite them while they're and the blood tastes different. I just love that. I think that's so cute.
Yes.
I love that as a trope.
You got different hormones flowing. I guess that makes sense.
Exactly. You know, and it's like, oh, it tastes spicy or it tastes like sunshine or something. Like, it's just so, I just love that. Yeah, that's fun.
Weird segue, but that's also something that I have seen a little bit, but I want to see more is like more explicit acknowledgement of disability in sexual scenes because like it comes into play and also it can be cute, it can be funny, it can be intimate. There's like a lot of like fun stuff you can do with it. I think maybe this is just like coming back to one of our like first discussions we had about this in general. We were talking about cozy fantasy, and at the time there was this big like stink going on Twitter about someone had said there's no room for disabled characters in cozy fantasy because it's like inherently not very cozy to be disabled, which is a messed up thing to say.
I remember that. That made me so mad.
But I feel like maybe that's also something that like able writers are like, oh, I won't like bring up the disability in this context because they should have like a break. But I feel like that's very like, you know, you can't leave your disability at the door no matter what, you know, at the bedroom door in the situation. So, but I guess it's that like pessimistic approach of like it has to be negative. And it's like it can contribute in a fun way. It can mean that you have a laugh. It can mean that like something a little silly happens.
You know, I think Hannah Kana does that well.
Yes,
with like Kizzen, and I was going to say some other book, then I forgot what it was.
To be fair, I don't even feel like it's silly with Kissing, but it's just like a good character moment and like a good moment of like closeness, where it's like
then you get like the vulnerability.
Yeah, in A Power Unbound by Freya Marsk, I feel like that's also well done because it's what's his name? What's the main character's name? Jack. Yeah, Jack with his cane. I feel like that's well remembered when in sex scenes. But also I think Freya Marsk is just very, very good at sex scenes, so you know.
That's true. And to be fair, am I misremembering this, or is his love interest not like a little bit into the cane, which is quite cute, honestly, because it doesn't feel like fetishization, it just feels like he's into him, and that's like, oh, this is an aspect of him.
Yeah.
And, you know, he might put it under my chin. I don't know.
You know? As you do.
I have been reading a little bit of Lost Finding fanfiction recently, so it could be that I'm conflating things there.
I feel like that's, what's the tag people use? Like, inappropriate use of mobility aid or whatever. Yeah. Although I have yet to see that tag. I will go looking for that tag.
It should
the only one I've
exist.
seen is inappropriate use of eye socket, and I did not read that fic, and I don't want to read that fic.
Oh
dear.
I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. Unless it was like a Locked Tomb fanfic in which I could see how they'd be misusing eye sockets there. But,
I still don't know if I want to know.
Anyway.
I guess, actually, speaking of fanfic, does that mean we...
Yes, I can talk about fanfic forever. Yes, let's go.
But speaking of the fanfiction landscape and, like, indie fiction and traditionally published fiction, I feel like quite a lot of, like, what, like, the good stuff we've been getting has sort of arisen in indie fiction first. And I'm curious about, like, what you guys think about, like, what's coming, I guess, based on that. Because indie fiction is often paving the way, I suppose, for more representation.
The pipeline goes fanfic, indie fiction, romance genre, fantasy genre, lit fic. That's the pipeline that I see in my head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Popularization of things.
There were definitely, because in the beginning of my publishing journey, I did try to query a couple of books that had a lot of disability representation, and I got a ton of agents who were like, this is an incredible story. I don't know how to market it. Go away.
That sucks.
Yeah, that was, to be fair, I mean, not to be fair to them, to be fair to me, I guess, before traditional publishing had really picked up basically any disabled rep. So that was like back in 2016, 2017. So we had very little, I guess, well, they had some disabled rep, but very little positive disability rep where it was actually like a focus, but not used as like inspiration porn or as like part of the villain arc or whatever. But then now that we have had quite a bit more in indie books and they sell really well, now traditional publishing has decided that because indie authors have kind of broken down that barrier and have proved with all of their incredibly hard work that they can be marketed, now we get traditional publishers doing it.
I suppose we've had some of those really influential trad published things that I think have made like a big difference. Like Get a Life, Chloe Brown immediately comes to mind. I haven't read that one yet, but I feel like there was a good chunk of time where everyone was talking about that.
Yes, I actually have read that one. I did enjoy that.
Oh, how is it?
It's good. It is how do I say this in a nice way? It feels exactly like what you would think if somebody was like, here's a popular contemporary romance with a disabled character. Like it is to a T that book. Which is not
I've been
bad.
Intrigued because I have fibro, but I was just like, this doesn't seem like my kind of thing, and I don't want to go in because I'm not a big contemporary romance reader. Not that there's anything wrong with it; it's just not my genre. So
I think, I think if you're not a contemporary romance reader, like it is like a play-by-play of a contemporary romance book, but with the disability representation as like a primary plot line. So it's a good book, but for specific people for sure. And I'm glad to see that now that we have a lot more representation coming out, that I think there's more diversity in the ways that disability rep is not written per se, but like is allowed to be incorporated to different extents and for different amounts of plot and different ways of being received. That we got a lot more representation on that front.
Yeah. And I feel like that was a few years ago now. I don't know when. But since then, stuff like even Fourth Wing, which you can argue about like the success of the representation there, but it is obviously like incredibly popular with a disabled protagonist. And like Iron Widow.
And a disabled author. It's its own voices.
And its own voices, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, Iron Widow as well.
Yeah.
Is like a very prominent one. I feel like that has at least made it easier, maybe theoretically, for stuff to get traditionally published. And I'm hoping that means that we will start to see more of it.
Yeah, you've got like Tessa Bailey, who's like one of the biggest contemporary romance writers out there right now, with Fangirl Down, I think it is, which is the love interest. I don't know which way around it is. The female protagonist is diabetic, and a lot of her arc in that book is about bodily autonomy and also about her like love interest sort of learning about those boundaries and what is like a good ally thing to do and what is not a good ally thing to do. And I think like when you've got such big voices like that doing that in their books, then you're like, okay, we've broken the barrier.
Yeah.
This is becoming a lot more. And it's also because like on the front cover of a lot of contemporary romances, you'll see the characters now that this like cartoon style is in vogue, which I have so many issues with, especially when you shelve fiction near the YA table. And then anyway, literally like 2 days ago, I was in my local bookshop and they had an Alia Hazelwood in the YA section. And it's like so like one of the smutty ones, like the deep end, I think it's called. And so I took it up to the front counter and I was like, hey, just to let you know, this is really, really smutty. And she was like, oh, well, it is a YA book, but I guess. And I was like,
is it?
I'm not going to say, no, it's not a YA book, but it's not a YA book.
Yeah.
It's because it's got a cartoon cover. It's literally two hands like clinging onto each other out of the water in a very sexually suggestive way. It's not a YA book. But aside from my beef with cartoon covers, the one benefit of them is
I've noticed, at least when I was in the indie bookshop, disproportionately stuff would get shelved in YA when it didn't belong in YA when it was a female author, which is super fun.
Yeah. But the pro of having cartoon covers is it means that you can see like the disability is a lot more visible, I think.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah, as long as it's a visible disability, I suppose, then you do have that. Like I found out on a limb recently while I was doing my little display thing, and that was like really cool to see on the cover because that is actually both characters being disabled. One of the characters is an amputee, and one of them has a limb difference.
Yeah,
and that's like right there on the cover. So I was like, oh, this is really cool, and like very cool to see, and honestly, kind of cool to see it in that like cartoon style that I myself am actually quite sick of because it's like this belongs here with everything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And hopefully it does mean that someone who has that experience and would benefit or enjoy reading something like that would find it and be like, oh my god, cool, and then pick it up.
Yeah, it's not just the same straight, white, cis, het, all the other adjectives. Romances that we get.
Can I remember any book I have ever written at this point? I definitely, I base a lot of my disabled rep on parts of my own disabilities. A lot of the characters experience them in ways that are more extreme than I commonly do. But when I'm not writing from my own experience, then I have always tried to get a sensitivity reader to just come in at the end, kind of, and after I have already done my research, point out little ways that like the big research that you do doesn't really show that like the characters have like the things that affect them that you might not have noticed if you don't have that in your own experience. But as far as the interaction with the romance, I definitely have a lot of different like disability and mental illness combinations that I think I like to kind of show the ways that the characters can give to each other, where one of them isn't necessarily like the caretaker of the other, but they both take care of each other and can be there when the other person can't step in to do something. And then also there's a lot of situations where like if you take Wesley and Vincent from the first Guides for Dating Vampire books, where Wesley doesn't really understand the ways that Vincent is disabled by his vampirism. There's the conversation they have where Wesley is like, wait, what do you mean you can't come to Pride? And Vincent has to be like, it is outside in the sun. Like, I can't stand out there in the sun. Were you going to bring enough shade for me to exist? And the like, just the kind of everyday conversations and interactions that you have when somebody's routine has to be very different than somebody else's, and they're learning how to come together in a way that's like positive and beneficial for both of them and makes both of their lives better.
I think it's sweet to see that like process of them getting to know each other, I guess, because I suppose it's in a weird way, it's kind of not that much deeper than that. Like, I'll speak for myself here because I don't know if that's, true for everyone. But for me, I'm like the like little random things like about my, various issues that I have are just like my normal, I guess. So It's like, okay, this is like whatever. Like, I'll be like getting to know someone and be like, oh yeah, and then. Recently, a thing that came up with my friends was that I hadn't had a jam donut before because I'd never come across a gluten-free iteration of a jam donut. But recently in my city, there's someone that's doing them, and I got very excited and I had one. I was like, this is the best thing ever. It's just like, it's just normal. Like,
yeah.
That is one thing, especially in my writing, that I found is that I forget what other people's normal is. So with supposedly abled characters that I'm writing, I will like show it to somebody and they'll be like, why did they have to take a nap after doing that one task? And I go, because I would have had to take a nap. And they go, yeah, think about that for a sec. Walk that bag. I'm like, oh yes, abled people can do multiple things in a day.
Yeah,
that's crazy. What?
I don't feel like I run into necessarily that particular problem as much as I run into, oh no, they did everything in 24 hours. And I know I couldn't do that, but I made them do it anyways. I didn't let them sleep, even though I can't. That's a problem with me, and I have this is going off of the disability topic, but I have had to learn over many books how to not have a book that takes place in the series of 3 days. I don't know why my plots just keep doing that. But please continue, Morgan.
You were just born to be a Greek tragedy writer, They take place in 24 hours.
Yeah, it just keeps coming and don't stop coming, and then they die.
That's what you want to do.
That's what fun life feels like, right?
I think when approaching writing disabled characters for me, I don't know, because I think because I, for most of my life, have not had any formal diagnoses, there's no sort of research that I'm able to base it off apart from my own experience. So I'm not able to go like, oh yeah, this character has this, so I'm going to write these things into them. I just go, this is some symptoms I have. I'm going to isolate them into this character. And then I'm going to take these other symptoms I have and isolate them into this character. And hopefully that will resonate with somebody. But I don't know what it is. I just know that I have it. So, and especially I think when I was writing Nyx and Bella in the Attic monologues, I didn't go in thinking these are disabled characters and this is how it works. I kind of just put them on a page and they started doing things. And then I was like, okay, this character clearly has that disability and this character clearly has that sort of disability. These do not gel well when they are both stressed. So whilst when they're feeling happy, they're very good at sort of anticipating each other's needs. But when things go wrong, that is where most of the conflict of the attic monologues arises. Which is, it's fun, devastating but fun. Yeah. So
honestly, that is also something that I would kind of like to see more, though. I guess, like maybe not in like a rom-com or something, but in a more. Is the attic monologues a romance? Can't call that a romance, can we?
We call it slice of life, so
True. Look,
it's a cozy horror-mance.
It's a romance to me. But I suppose when you have, I don't know, a sadder tone to the main story with a romance in it, it's actually quite refreshing to like see where things do go wrong. But like the fact that like these characters do still like care for each other very, very deeply anyway. And might be overcoming these things in the wrong ways sometimes, but they are ultimately trying to overcome them.
Exactly. That's my interest with characters. Like, I like when they're messy. I like when romance doesn't fix their mental illnesses or whatever. Like, that's so interesting to me. So you have like, you have a character who has anxiety, and like, the anxiety that we see in a lot of novels is not as debilitating as anxiety can be. It can just be like, haha, I'm a bit nervous, lol. But no, anxiety makes you do some mad. You are not making logical decisions at any point in the narrative.
I especially loved writing the most recent Guides for Dating Vampires, because the one of the main characters, Mercer, has that kind of anxiety, and like I just grit so hard every time I got to write him absolutely destroying his relationships, because his anxiety was so overwhelming that he's just like, I just shut down, black out, like trying to make somebody understand that they can like do a thing that's going to make him anxious, but in all of the wrong terms. And then he like comes out of it like, oh, I just that up again. And because like I have been through so many of those situations and had to backtrack and be like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened, except that I was so anxious that I couldn't think straight. And like that's a very important thing to show in books where characters have stuff like chronic anxiety, that it's not just like sitting quietly with somebody and patting their back and going, breathe, breathe. Sometimes it's getting yelled at because they don't know what they're saying anymore.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite ever like examples of very disabling anxiety, and it is in a romance novel, is in A Taste of Golden Iron, which we do have an episode upcoming on, so I won't go too into it. But Morgan's already read it by the time we record this episode, so I can talk about it. But the main character of that has like ridiculous levels of anxiety to the point of like crashing and needing to rest afterwards, and it's like a big point of contention in the romantic relationship because it has ripple effect caused things that have meant that the characters have got off really on the wrong foot with each other. And also his symptoms are being read completely differently by his love interest, who's like, oh, this is selfishness, or this is just pure alcoholism because he's trying to self-medicate. And he's like, this guy's just so irresponsible and he doesn't care about anything. And it's like, no, he cares so much. He cares so much. He cares way too much, unfortunately.
Soren, what about you and your writing?
I don't know.
Not that most of it's publicly available right now, but you do have thoughts. You do write about it.
I do have thoughts.
I know this.
Well, I don't have anything with disabled romance. I don't really have anything with romance that exists and is publicly available, sadly. I will eventually, hopefully. The work in progress that I'm working on right now, that I think I mentioned 2 years ago, oh my god, which is still being worked on, horrifying. But I'm actually adding words to it at the moment, so we love that. I'm not finding that I'm thinking about that all of the main characters in this are disabled in some way, and there's 4 of them, and 2 of them are in a romantic relationship. So that's interesting. And I think maybe there's some freedom in the fact that, at least in the romantic relationship there between the 2 of them, they do have, it's different disabilities. It's like something analogous to chronic fatigue that's not diagnosed because it's a fantasy setting, and then a limb loss of a few fingers due to frostbite. So obviously those things don't affect you in the same way at all. But I do feel like it has been like a nice kind of point of like bonding between those two characters. Like once I decided that, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like one of the reasons that they like fell together in a way. And I guess that's the thing that I'd kind of like to see a little bit more of, because I think in any situation where you're both an outsider of some kind, you can kind of find some commonality in that could grow into something more. So that's an aspect of it that I've been enjoying. That's not really like how I'm approaching it, but I'm having fun with that. And that's, I guess, always been sort of their like point of connection, because they're also both like from ethnic minorities in the country that they're in. So they're both like, hang on, like we're the only two people here who are like like this. Let's just hang out. And then,
cute.
I love that.
I guess I also have the point here of it's like already an established relationship by the time the story starts there, so I don't need to like worry too much about them learning like each other's needs and hang-ups and things, because they know by that point. So
yeah.
So I was actually thinking about the Cinderella retelling I have coming out, and I did at one point say that there is no disability rep in it. But and this isn't actually disability rep, but I was thinking about the ways that the main character for most of the book, he's trans, and he has one of those, Mulan style chest bindings that really cuts off his ability to like breathe and move the way he wants to. And so there's a lot of scenes where he's climbing on rooftops and running from people, and he's like, I cannot breathe, I'm about to pass out. And like that in a way is it's like the gender dysphoria is creating this pseudo disability during the times when he has to, he's like covering up the one feeling of being wrong by giving himself this kind of disabling chest binding.
Yeah, that was also something that would be really interesting to see, I think, because there's a lot of like discussion now, I think, now that like binding is changing, people are like moving to tape a little bit more and stuff. And then obviously there's like a generation of people who grew up binding and who are dealing with the effects of that, not necessarily because it's like inherently bad, but obviously a lot of people, myself included, spent time maybe binding more than they should have, or binding in situations where they shouldn't have.
And there wasn't nearly as much good information about at what point it hurt your body, or what types were not great for you, or the possibility of doing it in ways that were better for your body.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think tape was something that I saw discussed at all, but that would be a really fun one to see, I think, in like maybe like a cute T4T romance or something. Some lingering effects from chest binding. Or just the day-to-day of like you're actively binding and that is exhausting.
Yeah. Or having rep of like a character who can't get top surgery because of medical issues, and so like has to keep binding. I jumping off that, but in a completely opposite direction. I think like teenage consequences of like things you did when you were very mentally ill, I think is something like I really want to see more of. Like in my novel that I'm currently writing, the love interest has or had a very severe eating disorder as a teenager, and she doesn't have it anymore, or she's in recovery, but it has like completely wrecked her digestive system, and her teeth are pockmarked because there was acid all over them for several years. And like I feel like that, because you'll have the occasional like, oh yeah, it's a teenage romance, that one cheerleader has bulimia, ha ha ha, but I feel like it's not really, there's never really any consequences that you look into it. It's just like you had an eating disorder and either you die or you get better. You don't get better. Even if you're able to eat, you don't get better. So I'd like to see more rep of that kind. I don't know. Speaking as somebody whose digestive system is in shambles these days.
I I would really like to see more of that as well.
There's just so much different kinds and ways of portrayals and all of that we still need out there. Come on, people, write more disability rep. I feel like there's a lot of I don't know, not necessarily with disability rep itself, but like minority rep, where people are like, well, everybody has already written this version, like they've written that specific rep, so I don't have to do it, or like I can't do it differently. It's just always going to be the same. But there's so many different avenues that you can go down, that you can show people something that relates to them in a much stronger and more specific way than what the same rep would have done for somebody else. Like, we have so much variety in our experiences and the way that disability has affected each of us as individuals, that like there's just so much out there that hasn't been written yet.
Yeah. And I feel like as soon as you start getting into like, well, somebody else has done this, it's like, well, somebody else has done like every story on the planet. Like you can't be making that argument, or else we should all just give up and never write anything ever again.
If I have to shelve 700 knockoffs of A Court of Thorns and Roses, we can have 3 different books with the same disability.
Yes, and one of them can be a knockoff off of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like if retellings are so popular, then why can't we have, if people are happily reading like different retellings of the same story over and over, then why wouldn't they want to see like the same rap again? And in fact, like people do want to see the same rap again. Like I know for myself that I was like reading every trans book I could find as a teenager because there weren't any. I wasn't like, I've read one, now that's it.
As fic readers, we've all been like, I'm going to go through this specific tag and another one, thank you. Yes. Another one, thank you. And it's the same premise, but it's written by different people.
Exactly.
And they're like, yes, 10,000 coffee shop AUs, let's go.
And then they bring in something new to it.
Exactly.
Oh, speaking of retellings, actually, another romance that I love with good disabled rap, Cinder, from the Luna Chronicles series.
Yes.
Love that. I always forget about the one because I feel like it came sort of before I was thinking about this kind of thing, so I don't like categorize it in my brain as disabled rap, but obviously it very much is.
Yes.
Yeah. And she did romantasy before romantasy was cool,
Yeah. Although I guess that's sci-fi fantasy. No, other one. Sci-fi maths.
I mean, yeah, but the Luna people have magical powers.
They do, it's true. I feel like there's ostensibly a scientific explanation for it, isn't it? It's like bioelectricity, but it doesn't. It feels very magic.
Technically. All sci-fi is just magic systems, but with extra sprinkles.
Yeah.
But what if life and science in our world is just technically magic?
Exactly.
Beautiful. I mean, kind of is.
Yeah.
Kind of is. What?
Although I suppose especially nice in the Luna Chronicles to see disabled rep in a sci-fi setting where it's not like, oh, well, it wouldn't be a thing because we have like incredible technology and we have almost magical levels of like control and stuff. They're still disabled characters, and that doesn't go away, which is nice. But Danny, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm gonna confess to our listeners, Bookworms, we had to record this episode twice due to extreme technical failures on our end. So Danny is incredible and has had this conversation with us twice.
I feel like it, we hit some different beats this time, and all of the same beats were like we condensed it down and it worked.
Exactly.
Streamlined. This is the new and improved version of this episode.
Exactly. But everyone in the comments, please go and tell Danny that they're amazing and etc.
Well, you are both amazing too, so
thank you. And where can people find you / your books if they're listening and they're like, oh my goodness, sirens, vampires, disability? I love all these things.
If you want to check out my books, you can find them honestly at most places that sell books online. The audiobooks for the Guides for Dating Vampires are on most libraries, which is I always recommend using your libraries if you can. let's see, the ebooks for basically all of my books are available for free for anyone to download through the links that are in my social media. It's called the Resistance Bundle. And you can find my social media, basically Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all have like DN, it's some version of DN Bryn. I was thinking there's like one that's DN_Bryn and one of them is DN Bryn author. But if you type in my name, it probably will come up with me.
Amazing. And everything will be in the show notes for people to just go and click a link.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this. It was just as fun the second time.
I'm so glad.
Next time, we will be doing, it is finally Moist Month 2.0.
Moist Month 2.0.
You didn't ask, but we delivered.
No, literally nobody asked.
But we thought we were so funny.
We're just so happy to be of service.
Exactly. Bringing the moistness to August.
It's already going to be moist with the sun, that hot.
Don't remind me. I'm running away to the Arctic. So we will be doing, for our first entry, Running Close to the Wind by Alexandra Rowland, which we have been thinking about doing for a while. Very exciting.
Dying to do.
And it's very fun. It's very good. I feel like I can hint at it because we've already recorded that episode.
Exactly.
So I can say pirates and polyromance and many other things and comedy.
And a very moist sponge, by which I mean a sponge cake. Very important to the plot.
Yeah, cakes are so important.
Cakes,
so important.
Very important.
Cakes. Yeah. And that will be out on August 11th. But until then, you're always welcome to the Bookcase.
Don't forget to scratch the cat on your way out. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Bookcase, a production of Plain Art Prod. On this episode, you heard Deanne Bryn, Morgan Greensmith, and Soren Brower discussing disability in romance. A massive thank you to Danny for joining us for this episode not once but twice, and for the fascinating conversations. You can find them at dn_Bryn on Instagram, or at dnbrynauthor on TikTok, or visit their website at dnbryn.com. You can find The Hidden Bookcase on Twitter and Blue Sky at Hidden Bookcase, and on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, and TikTok at Hidden Bookcase Podcast. Find out more about Plain Art Prod at plainartprod.com. Know what we should read next, or want to chat to us about what you thought of this episode? You can reach us at thehiddenbookcase@gmail.com, send us a DM on social media, or come chat with your fellow bookworms in our growing Discord server. The link is in our show notes. Want to support The Hidden Bookcase? Support us on Patreon for bonus episodes, audio outtakes, playlists, and other extras. Buy a book through our bookshop.org page, or consider leaving us a rating or a review or telling a friend how to find us. Your whispers are the best way for bookworms to discover our show. For our next episode, which will be out on August the 11th, we'll be discussing A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland to kick off Moist Month. We hope to see you then, and in the meantime, you're always welcome through the Bookcase.